biggest issues plaguing modern men is that the vast majority of them lack a tribe of other virtuous, trustworthy, masculine men who gather for the sole purpose of improving themselves and their lives on a daily basis. Most men simply float through space, working a dead-end job, only to go home to a nagging wife or girlfriend that doesn't respect them. Their friend circles are nothing but fat, low testosterone losers who are more concerned with what sports teams are playing this weekend and what bar they're going to watch the game at. If these men are lucky enough to unplug from the comforting lies that modern society sells them and decide they want more out of life, they look around and realize they need to get into a better room. That's where a private community of men chasing excellence comes in. Men in our community have all committed to being the best versions of themselves that they can possibly be. They willingly run toward challenges, knowing that pushing themselves out of their comfort zones is the key to unlocking their true potential as men. If you're ready to take control of your life back and curate a network of successful and knowledgeable men, now is the time to seize the opportunity.
All right, what's up, guys? We're back for another episode. We're doing TUA 165, and this one is more so for the ladies, although I doubt too many ladies will listen to it, although I think a lot of you guys probably have sisters, cousins, daughters, even friends perhaps that you might want to send this episode to offer some clarification. As you guys know, I don't do very many of the ladies' night podcasts anymore. Moff and Spencer take care of them. I'll fill in next week for Moff because he'll be away, so you'll see me on it again then. But quite often, it's almost like you're speaking to a wall, right? Like you're having the conversation and you're not really being heard, or you're being spoken over a lot of the time. So I thought I'd take this opportunity in this podcast to sort of offer some clarity in a nice organized fashion, somewhere where it can sort of live, and it'll always be out there. It's in podcast form too, so on Spotify and Apple and all that stuff, so you guys can share it and send it around to the gals that need to hear it. But I guess the first thing that I should tell you guys, more specific for the ladies, is that you've been lied to. Pretty much everything you've been told by modern culture, society, music, marketing, hip hop, fucking Hollywood, everything out there is an absolute complete lie for all of you ladies who are all looking for the same thing at the end of the day, which is to lock down a high value guy. Call him what you want, the top shelf man, high value guy, HVM, whatever it happens to be. Pretty much all of you are doing it wrong. And it's a very small handful of women that get it. You see them from time to time on ladies' night, like from I don't know, maybe like month to month, you might get one or two women on the show that have it figured out and are in the right place and they understand all these concepts, and you see them sort of chime in from time to time, and they're pretty useful. But I'd say like 85 to 95% of gals out there, they just don't get these concepts, or if they do, they get it when it's far too late in their life for them. And I'll get a long-winded email from one of these gals who's 44 or something like that, and it's the standard, I did what I was told. I climbed the corporate ladder. I got my degrees. I got the student loan. I paid for the house. I got 17 pillows, throw pillows on my bed. I have the Tesla, all my pets. I'm a fur mom. They may even push around some of their pets in like little strollers in the park, sort of thing like that. And they'll say, and it basically ends with, everything you said, Rich, is absolutely right. I wish that women would listen to you. I wish that I would have listened to this when I was younger. Instead, I was given bad guidance, improper guidance, whatever it happens to be. So you get what I'm saying. I dropped a call-in link for StreamYard for the ladies if they want to call in and ask any questions, for ladies only on the show. So that's there if you want to chop up something or ask for some clarification. But for all of you gals out there that are looking for love and or more specifically, looking for a high value man, to lock down a high value man, these points, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, should be able to get through them in about the next hour, hopefully a little bit less. Let's dive right into it. The first one I got, and these are in no particular order, by the way. It's just the ones that I had written down. There's a handful more. I'm sort of working through some of these ideas in this book that I'm publishing later on this year. It should be available at the 1% Forum in October Those of you that have already bought tickets know about it because you're already in my community. If you're not in my community, there's a whole bunch of tiers. Take a look below at entrepreneursandcars.com/community. They start at $50 a month and they sort of go up from there. And you have an opportunity in just about all of those tiers to show up to events, buy a ticket to my 1% forum, and get early access to stuff and meetups and all that kind of stuff. But you can check that out after. Anyway, first things first. The first mistake that I see a lot of women make is they're putting themselves in the wrong room. Women only have it's not very small. It's a lot smaller of a window than they think for these kinds of relationships that they're looking for, to become a mom, to become a wife, some version of that. And there's going to be harpies in the chat right now. I don't need no man. I can have a child without a man. There's sperm banks and blah, blah. Fine. Show's not for you. Go away. Show's for the ladies that want a high value man, the competent man, the virtuous man, the resourceful man, the handsome man, the loving man, the fatherly type of man, the kind of man that women respect. Most women are putting themselves in the absolute wrong room. The guys that you're looking for aren't in Ibiza partying till 5 o'clock in the morning. They're not on a beach in Thailand snorting coke, doing all kinds of moon parties and stuff like that. They're not in Cancun at the foam cannon party. They're probably not in Vegas. They're not up to all hours of the night. They're on some kind of a purpose. They're on some kind of a grind. They're doing something of some significance in their life. And the vast majority of women come to the realization too late in their life, well past their prime, well past the point where any of these top shelf men would contemplate anything on a serious level with you. They might contemplate short-term dating, something, I don't know, friends with benefits or whatever, but they're not around for anything on a long-term basis. And you're not going to find them on a long-term basis. They're working in professional organizations. They're working as lawyers. They're working as physicians. They're working as entrepreneurs. They're networking at EO type of events. They're doing things of some significance. But a lot of women squander away their youth and their beauty during the window that they have fertility, which is up until, I mean, some physicians call geriatric pregnancies after the age of 35, depending on who you talk to. Fertility for women starts to go downhill dramatically after the age of 30. A successful, healthy child after the age of 40 happens. People go all the time, I know so-and-so that did it. Cool. It happens, but it's rare. And sometimes when it does happen, because you're older, you end up in situations where you've got a special needs kid or extra needs kid, or, needs that you don't want to deal with type of kid, sort of stuff like that. So you've only got really a few shots at it, like a few kicks at the can. And I don't think women take this seriously enough. And I'm sure there's some fathers and maybe older brothers out there that offer advice to their daughters or their sisters. And I was talking to one of the guys on one of my private Zoom calls this morning because he's running into a problem with his daughter, who's a teenager, and he's offering useful sage type of advice, but it's falling on deaf ears. So a lot of the times there might be a useful father or older brother around that is offering useful guidance and advice, and there's no obedience to it. They don't listen to it. It's in one ear and out the other. So the first thing that I would highlight to the ladies out there is put yourself in the right room. It ain't in the nightclubs. It ain't partying on a beach till 4 o'clock in the morning. It ain't running through all kinds of D, traveling through Europe, in your summers. It's none of those things. It's in places that you're not thinking about right now. Go and get a job as an intern at a law firm. Go and get hired or work in an entrepreneur's networking type of organization. There's any number of opportunities that you have to put yourself in rooms where there's high value, resourceful, successful men. They may not all be the kind of men that you're looking for on the handsome scale. There are some in there, but you're going to be up against some competition. And I think the younger that you are when you come to this realization as a woman, and you take it from a serious approach and angle, the sooner the more likely you are to be successful. Because again, remember, you only have a few kicks at the can. If you contemplate dating, the year or two of sort of like the honeymoon phase, when you're early on started, it's going to take a woman that long to figure out what the guy's made of. He could be an absolute liar, right? And hold out like the Tinder swindler was, for example, that's an exaggerated type of example, but you get the idea. So it might take a few years of dealing with each guy in the dating phase to sort of figure that part out, to suss them out, and see if it's something that you can latch your, I'm going to call it meat hooks, but latch yourself onto, hitch your wagon to, if I can put it that way, because that's what it is. It's a gal hitching her wagon to the right guy. And if you pick the wrong guy, it can be disastrous. If you pick a guy that you're not attracted to, which a lot of women end up in their 30s, not their first choice, not their second choice, not even a third choice, just he's good enough. It's the best I can do right now. So I'm going to do that. And that just falls apart because you end up hating him after 5 to 10 years and divorce him and taking half his shit. And he doesn't see his kids that often. And the kids don't have a father around. And you watch Eat, Pray, Love and you think you're doing the right thing. But I'm telling you right now, gals, put yourself in the right room. Stop putting yourself in the wrong room and stop squandering away your youth and your beauty and your fertility in times and matters and events and all kinds of things that just do not serve you over the long term. Okay, first one. Second thing is, when you find a top shelf man and he's interested in you and you start dating and it's and going somewhere, embed yourself into his life. You see it on ladies' night all the time, where women are like, he needs to come. I think there was a gal on last night, I was watching a bit of the show. I was in the chat for a tiny little bit as well. But she was talking about, I don't know, working in something in dentistry, like a dental assistant or hygienist or something like that. And her guy was like a FANG company type of guy, working with SpaceX and all the tech companies, doing very well, making a lot of money. And she was talking about like having her feet rubbed when she got home from work. And it's like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, think about these things, ladies, right? Guys that are on a purpose, that are out there putting a dent in the universe, that are working difficult tasks, that are making some significant amounts of money, that are networking, that are resourceful, that are valuable in all of these things. They don't have time or thought to rub your feet or to make you dinner. That's another one that I hear too, is like, the guy's expected to go to work and she'll stay home with the kids or something like that, or she'll just stay home and just be a stay-at-home girlfriend or something like that. And it's like, he's got to cook her dinner when he comes home and the house is a mess and she's been watching TV all day, eating bonbons like Peggy Bundy. You understand what I'm saying here? Find ways to embed yourself into his life and be useful. Because if a woman can embed herself into his life, he finds her useful for culinary skills, for meal preps, helping him take care of tasks that he doesn't have time to do, and she sees opportunities for it. I don't know, running a load of laundry through the machine, picking up his dry cleaning, with his shirts and stuff like that. It doesn't matter what it is. Figure out a way to embed yourself into his life and be useful to him. And I know that toxic feminism today tells women all kinds of narratives like, you don't need a man, or you need a man like a fish needs a bicycle, or you shouldn't be doing anything at all. Like, there's this sort of notion that women today shouldn't do anything for the express pleasure of a man, which is utterly absurd. It's ridiculous. You know what I'm saying? You want these top shelf men, which, by the way, all women want, not just you. All women want the same type of guy who sits at the top of the pyramid. He's like the top 5% of less of all men out there. And you're not doing the right things to, one, attract, and two, retain that dude. So again, the second thing is find ways to embed yourself in his life and be useful. The next thing is being absolutely respectful. I don't know why this is confusing to women. I don't know why this is difficult today for women to understand. Maybe it's a function of family, culture, religion, but fewer and fewer women today know how to be respectful. They're mouthy, they're loud, they're obnoxious, disagreeable. They're boss girls, the hashtag boss girl, career type, they're in a office environment, challenged up against men all day, behaving like men, swinging D like men, even though they don't have it, or acting in that way. And they don't know how or want to be respectful to a guy. And I get a lot of it happens to be shit testing. Like, I know women competency test men all the time. Like, oh, a real man would, or, like a man needs to know how to change a flat tire or something like that. Or what's the matter? You don't know how to do this or do that or the other things sort of like that. And then they start to be disrespectful to him. And granted, there's a large contingent of men that are soft and weak. But again, on the top shelf, the top 5% of guys roughly have all that shit squared away. And if you find yourself dealing with somebody that's of lower quality and you're shit testing him and you realize that he's of lower quality, you don't need to keep shit testing him. Move on from it. Leave. Okay. Because if what you really want and you are serious about securing it, then you'll seek that, right? You'll be very, very clear about it, and you won't waste time racking up notches or years or life spent with guys that aren't it, if I can put it that way. And a lot of the times, you find yourself being disrespectful to a lot of guys because you've had to be, because maybe they're losers, maybe they're incompetent, maybe they're not resourceful, maybe they cry on your shoulder like a little bitch sort of thing. You saw last night on the ladies' night, they were talking a lot about therapy and sitting down with a psychologist and blah, blah, blah. And I'll say this again, most men don't need any fucking form of therapy. They just need to be successful, competent, resourceful. A motorcycle will solve most men's problems. A gym membership will solve most men's problems. A boxing match between two men sparring each other will solve most men's problems. You don't just sit in front of some fucking clown and cry about how difficult your life is. Men need to solve their problems. So again, back to the ladies for you, learning how to be respectful when you identify a top shelf man. I don't know. Is it a skill you need to learn? You just need to do it, gals. It's as simple as that. You just need to do it, right? All right. Next thing. Accepting his boundaries. Let's cross a few of these off. Boom, boom, boom. Accepting his boundaries is the next one that I have here. Men will set boundaries. I think one of the things that popped out last night on the ladies' night was I heard something along the lines about financial abuse. Abuse is real. It happens to women. There's some dickheads out there. There's some very difficult women that bring the dickhead out in men as well. I can say that to be fair. But when I start hearing terms like financial abuse, and then you hear women complain like, oh, I wasn't allowed a credit card or an increased limit on my credit card, or he had his own spending account. He wouldn't give me enough money, or I wanted more money, and it was financially abusive. And they'll do this all the time on social media. He was financially abusive, or, you meet a gal and she'll say, well, the reason why my marriage didn't work out, or the last guy that I dated didn't work out, was because he was financially abusive and shit like that. And for the vast majority of cases with the guys that I've talked to anyway, it's not financial abuse. It's setting a boundary. It's like, this is the budget. This is what you're going to live within, and that's just how it's going to be. But because they hear some shit, I don't know, a song, Hollywood, something, whatever it happens to be, or they follow some thought on social media that tells them otherwise, that doesn't have their life squared away and doesn't have a top shelf man. They hear some notion about, oh, well, him setting a boundary or a budget, or, something like, I don't date women that like to party on the weekends, right? Or I don't take women seriously that go to Vegas regularly, or that go away for girls' weekends to Miami and stuff like that. That's just a regular, normal boundary that would be considered healthy in most pair bonded type of relationships. Any woman that's smart understands that and respects that boundary and wouldn't want to violate the covenant of that relationship or that commitment that she's made to the guy, and follows that boundary happily. But the vast majority of women out there, they don't. And as you see on ladies' night, and we don't handpick, despite what a lot of people might think or say in the comments, we don't handpick nightmares. We just pick people, women specifically, that are interested in hopping on a podcast and talking about relationships and chopping up dating and stuff like that. That's who we're taking on the show, just your average gal. It just happens to be that the vast majority of women out there today that we're finding for this show like this don't know how to respect a man's boundaries. They don't know how to be respectful. They don't know how to be useful in his life. They don't know how to put themselves in the right room so that they're finding themselves with access to good men. And the other thing too is a lot of the times they'll find a good guy and they fuck it up a lot. They want a guy to be everything. That's one of the reasons why a lot of relationships fall apart. And I think more so on the part of women than men, because men will stick it out more on the basis of like obligation, if I can put it that way. Whereas women are very quick. And this for a fact because women untie the knot 70, 80% of the time when it comes to divorces. It's not men that are divorcing women for the vast majority of cases. It's mostly women divorcing men. So it's a lot of, I think I can do better. And I did a survey the other day on Twitter, and I was asking guys to react and respond to the notion that they've seen a lot of divorces by now. And in those cases, have they seen the women trade up or trade down? And the results of the survey were the vast majority of women that they've noticed traded down. So they're untying the knot, or they're leaving a relationship thinking that they can do better because there's something they don't like about it. Maybe there's a budget. We'll get into a few of the other things, but there's something they don't like about the relationship. So they're like, fuck this, I'm out, because they think they can do better. And it's like, no. Boundaries are boundaries. You want a top shelf man until he starts setting boundaries for you. Then you don't want him anymore. And it's like, you want your cake and you want to eat it too. You want to consume all the calories but not get fat, right? There's going to be consequences to your choices, and these top shelf guys will hold you accountable. And if you're a piece of trash, you're going to be taken out to the curb, and that's just the way that it happens to be, right? So this is another point that is absolutely important and significant to understand for women, that a guy that's worth his salt will set boundaries. And you don't have to like him. That's okay. That's what boundaries are. Kids don't like boundaries. No, Billy, you can't have that candy bar. No, Sally, you don't need another doll. Okay? It starts when boys and girls are young, usually from shitty parenting. But it starts when kids are young and they're not following boundaries. They're not, like, a good example or a rule of law or life is not being set properly for them. And they have a spaz or a hissy fit, or they'll just get their way. You know, they'll just keep crying about something and the parent will just buy it to shut them up because they don't know how to deal with it, or they don't want to deal with it, or it's just easier just to give them what they want. So boundaries are a real big part of it. Any guy that I know, I've talked to lots of men out there, gals. I've counseled thousands of guys now, privately, call-ins on my shows. You can go through my entire catalog of podcast videos. I've been doing this since 2018 or 19, podcasts with call-in elements, and lots of guys have called in. Granted, a lot of them aren't on the top shelf. They're trying to figure out a lot of stuff. But I've also talked to lots of top shelf men that have figured out stuff, and they're dealing with nightmares, or they're putting up with nightmares. And it's unnecessary. Again, a lot of these guys will tolerate it out of like obligation, out of, like they're already there. So they don't want to rock the boat too much, because that's what guys have been told to do. You know, they tell men and women different things. They tell women, you do what's right for you, girl, which is why you see a lot of women untie the knot and they end up trading down, and they don't get what they want, and they're just falling apart, as they get older. They tell men something different. They tell men, you do what's right. And those are two very different narratives. Good men will do what's right. The top shelf men will do what's right. Okay. And they will set boundaries. And ladies, you may not like them, but you're going to have to accept them. A lot of the times, in the vast majority of cases, a lot of the boundaries, a lot of the rules, a lot of the whatever it happens to be that the ladies do not like are often very good for her in the relationship. I'm going to say it again. The very things, the boundaries that a lot of men set in long-term relationships or marriages are good for her and the relationship. Just because she doesn't like something, fellas, doesn't mean that you stop doing it. Doesn't mean that you change your position. This is like part of frame. This is another element of frame. Picture frames. You all know what a picture frame looks like. Everybody's got pictures on their walls, and they're framed in something. Top shelf men have the dominant frame in the relationship. There's some naturals out there that don't even know who I am, have read none of my shit, and they just get it. Okay. A lot of guys have to get to that point. I have to explain these concepts to them and walk them through it. I have a ton of material in my school of unplugging. Again, entrepreneursandcars.com/community. You guys can get started there for $50 a month. You can rip through all the material, stay for a few months, and then leave. It's up to you. You get what you need. Show up on my monthly Zoom calls, answer questions. I got a team of experts that deal with everything for you. Your resume writing, your dating, your Instagram, everything. I have it all covered. Get into the community if you're looking for more details on this. I'm trying to go over this from the ladies' perspective. The community isn't for the gals, by the way. Maybe in the future I'll do something like that, but specifically for men. I'm telling you guys, you need to get your shit fucking together, because the vast majority of you aren't what most women are seeking. So we dealt with boundaries. What else we got? Another one really is, I'm just going to say it, gals, don't be a hoe. And I can prove this to you right now. A lot of women get so pissed off when I say this. They get so mad. And it's like, yes, there's a double standard. A man can go out and bet a whole bunch of women, and he's called a Chad. He's a stud. He's successful. He's admired by other men and even other women, believe it or not. But women can't do the same thing, get away with it. And yeah, that's a double standard. And there's lots of double standards in life between the sexes. Women can have babies, men can't. Men are stronger physically, especially in the upper body. Women aren't. That's just the way things are. Men get paid more in sports because more people watch that shit. Men get paid more in a lot of the jobs that they do because they take on riskier jobs with longer hours that pay more. I.e., I never see fucking chicks on roofs changing roof tiles. I never see chicks on oil rigs in the middle of the fucking North Atlantic. I never see chicks on the fishing boats that are crabbing in the Northern Pacific. I never see chicks in coal mines. A lot of these jobs pay a lot more because they're higher risk, they're longer hours, they're further away from family, and that's why guys get paid more. So there are double standards in life. They're not getting paid more for the same job, by the way, despite what the psychopath third wave feminists are trying to tell women. You have a level 3 employee at CIBC Bank here in Toronto. They all get paid the same fucking range, whatever it is, call it 70 to 80,000. They all get paid the same range for the same level of job. And it's always been that way. Okay. But there are double standards in life. And one of them that women have to accept is that you can't be a hoe, and I'll prove it to you. Okay. I want you to think about this for a second. Every guy throughout history that's ever been married, can you name one, even in your inner circle, in your family, your father, your brothers, your cousins, your in-laws, whoever happens to be, name one guy that you know that's married that's ever said, gee, I wish my wife had fucked 100 more dudes before I got married. 0 guys in history have ever thought that to themselves. Think about that. There might be a handful of cucks out there. They exist. They're weird. But don't go sharing your body with a whole bunch of men. It's like, you buy a new car. It's only new once. Once you drive it off to the lot and it goes through a bunch of owners and the miles rack up on the clock and the warning lights on the dashboard start showing up and maintenance has been put off or ignored by the owners, problems rack up. One of the things you hear a lot of guys talk about, a lot of the top shelf guys out there that make appearances on podcasts or do shows like this, is that they don't want to deal with other people's problems. They don't want to deal with that baggage. They don't want to deal with, like the stories of, my last boyfriend hurt me, or my last boyfriend pushed me down the stairs, or there was another one that, cheated on me. And then there was like 3 more that cheated on me, or he was financially abusive and he set a budget that I wouldn't follow, or blah, 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 all this sort of stuff. And a lot of these guys, they also don't want to deal with a gal that's been around the block, right? I mean, I want to put a gal in my 800 horsepower stage 2 tuned fucking 911 Turbo S, and she sits in the car and she's like, fuck, this is amazing. I've never been in a car like this. Not, oh, my last 3 boyfriends had one of these, right? Women think that holding out to other men on social media, that they've traveled the world. You see this a lot on Instagram where it's like, oh, here's a picture of her in front of the Eiffel Tower. Here's a picture of her in Miami. Here's a picture of her at the foam cannon party in Cancun. Here's a picture of her in Thailand at the full moon party. Here's a picture of her on Mount Fuji. Here's a picture of her in front of a dish of saganaki with shrimp in it on Santorini while the sun sets in the background behind the Greek houses with the blue and white, finishing to them. You know what I'm talking about? It's like all of these, and she doesn't have a job. Like she's an esthetician or a beauty consultant or something like that. Like she doesn't have anything that can pay for that. It's dudes that pay for all of that. And with each dude that racks up, there's more baggage and there's more problems and there's more guys. And again, think about it. What guy in history has ever fucking said to themselves, I wish my wife would have banged 100 more chicks before I married her, before she became the mother of my children? 0. So don't be promiscuous. Once you are, though, and I'm going to shift this a little bit now, once you have created a past for yourself, the next mistake that women make is they keep asking for new car prices, MSRP, on a vehicle that has 300,000 fucking miles and scratches and rust and dings and warning lights on the dashboard, they're still asking for MSRP. They're still asking for full price, not the depreciated value. I'm going to be a little bit more specific. They make guys wait for it. You see this on ladies' night all the time. Oh, I'm 30 whatever, or I'm 29 whatever it happens to be. I'm not going to hop into bed right away. He has to wait 8 months. He has to work for it. He has to he has to provide 10 luxurious dates for me before I'll even think about it. And guess what, ladies? There is also no man out there, especially if he's on the top shelf, that is willing to pay more for something that other dudes got for free or got at a lower cost. The guy at the full moon party that you banged on the beach, he didn't have to wait for 8 months. But all of a sudden now your strictures change because you've realized that you want to get serious and you've gotten right with God, or it's time to have a family because all of your friends have children and you don't want to be that old gal pushing around your fluffy white dog in a stroller at the park at 38 on a dating app, asking every single guy that messages you, what are you looking for here? Are you ready for a family? Right? That's when you should not be restrictive. You should be restrictive early on. You should be very careful with your beauty and your purity, because that's where women's value lies inherently. It's not in success. It's not in your career. There's no fucking guy in history that's ever looked at your degree on the wall and be like, oh, that's framed in some of the finest mahogany I've ever seen, and that really turns me on, baby. I love those little letters after your name that indicate that you're all this smart and all. No, they look at you in a pair of yoga pants when you're walking away and you're kind of waving at him with your butt as you walk, and he's like, yeah, that's hot, I like that, I'd wear that as a hat. That's what guys look at. They don't care about your accomplishments. And despite, this is one of the other points that I made, is like, a lot of women try to attract these top shelf men by becoming top shelf men themselves, getting degrees, climbing the corporate ladder, putting off family, making money, buying all this shit. And I got everything. Trust me, your car's not cooler than mine. Okay. I don't care about your Tesla or your fucking Mercedes or your BMW or your whatever it is that you got. It doesn't matter. Even if you got it, it ain't as cool as my shit anyway. And on top of that, women don't share their pot of gold with top shelf men anyway, or any guy for that matter. They just don't. Men are success objects to women. These top shelf men are expected by beautiful, young, fertile women to share their resources and their stuff with these gals. That's what they're expected to do. And men, on the other hand, are expecting youth, fertility, beauty, commitment, usefulness in their life, respect, a place of peace and kindness, not disagreeableness and boss girlness and all that sort of stuff. You see these tough bitches, these tough boss girl type of, or bad bitches, or what else are they? What's the other term that I heard the other day? Baddie. What a loser term baddie is. Every single chick I've ever heard use the term to like baddie to describe themselves is a bad choice for any guy. Seen it time and time again. Seen this movie every single time. It always ends the same way. It's some difficult, disagreeable, obnoxious gal that is basically trying to sell the virtues of success and what men are to men. And a guy that already has all that doesn't need that. What men want is beauty, fertility, purity. That's what they want. That's what they want to select on a long-term basis. All right. You still with me? How's the chat doing here? Yeah, you guys are going at it with each other. That's funny. I was kind of expecting that. Right. So we talked about not being promiscuous. And if you have been promiscuous, if you have a past, it is unwise to have very strict requirements and hoops for a top shelf man to jump to. He won't. He fucking won't. I promise you he won't. I talk to these guys on the regular. I know the mentality. I know the mindset. I know the demographic. I'm in it. They don't fucking put up with that shit. Oh, you want me to wait 8 dates? I talked about it in my book, The Unplugged Alpha. If you haven't read it, guys, it's at the top of the screen. You get it on Amazon. There's a story that I gave you guys in that book. I'll tell it again. Went out on a date. Lady shows up, a little bit taller than I was expecting. I'm not really into giants. She's probably like almost as tall as I was, and a little bit heavier than what I was expecting. I'm there. She's funny. She's got a nice rack. I'm like, whatever. Let's just sit down and have this beer. We sit down. She starts to telling me about how crappy her dating life was and how it's not going her way. And I'm like, okay, explain it to me. And she's like, as a result of all of that, Rich, I've set an 8-date rule, and I'm not going to sleep with a guy unless it's been 8 dates. And she's talking to me like she's trying to qualify me because she thinks that I'm interested in her. Like, I haven't told her that I think she's fat yet at this point. Anyway, so I just laugh, and I have no filter at that point because I'm not here to please you. I'm not going to lie to you. I don't lie anyway when I'm talking to anybody. I'll look you in the eyes and I'll tell you the truth. And I just looked at her and I said, I basically almost spit out my drink as I'm having a swig. And I'm like, I don't negotiate desire. It's a really bad strategy trying to negotiate when intimacy happens, because it takes away the organic transaction of validational sex versus transactional sex, right? And it's just dumb. It's not going to work for you. And I don't play games like that. And again, at this point, she still thinks that I might be interested in her, and she changes her behavior immediately. You see her mind shift. She sits up, and then she goes, fine. And then she makes a gesture towards the bathroom and says, let's go fuck right now. I'm only there for 15 minutes, and she's already telling me that she doesn't do anything for 8 dates. And all of a sudden, that entire rule dropped, and she wanted to go bang in the bathroom immediately. Women will make rules for men that they see as betas, and they will break rules for men as they see as alphas. It was a shit test. I passed it. I wasn't interested. It was also one of the few times in my life that I passed on an aggressive advance from a chick, right? But for the ladies out there that have had a pass, that have dated guys that might be in their 30s and are looking to find a guy to commit to them, one of the worst things you could do is put a guy off by saying you're going to have to wait 8 dates. He's not going to wait. Why would he pay full price on a vehicle that's already been driven off the lot, had a whole bunch of owners, has all kinds of baggage with it, and you're asking full price for something that's a depreciated asset? That's exactly when you should not be waiting. You should be like early on in life, when you're younger, when your purity is there, when you've got higher value. Again, men and women peak at different times in life. Okay, men peak in their mid to late 30s. A lot of people debate this. It's 30, it's 40. It can keep going from 40 into 60. I don't care what it is. Men peak later on in life than women do. Women across the board, when you ask men, doesn't matter culture, continent, religion, or age, they've done this with every demographic of men all around the world. And every single man from every culture picks women that are approximately 22 to 23-year-olds as the most attractive. After that, you're on the decline. You can be 33, have your own house paid for, 2 cars, like a cool car and a regular car, nice house, pool, all kinds of shit, 17 throw pillows on your bed that are beautifully arranged, blah, blah, blah. But if you spent your youth squandering it away, traveling Europe, banging, going to parties, hooking up with guys, giving it to them, early and quick, as women do, dude like that ain't going to wait. He's going to be, fuck this shit. And he's going to move on to something that's, thinking, that's smarter. It is wise for women not to hold out on guys, especially if you're not a new vehicle anymore. I'll just leave it at that. Let me get the super chat here right now. Claudia here says, Rich, don't fault me for not calling in. I'm at work. If a man already has kids, would you enjoy a relationship with a woman who is still fertile but didn't have kids with you? Want your perspective. If a man has, okay, so I have a kid. Yes, I would. So a relationship, as you're asking, like as you're defining it, Claudia, I would only have a relationship. I would only invite a woman into my life for a relationship if I didn't have to deal with another man's kids. We talked about this Monday night on Chopping It Up. Me and Moff were sort of going through the red flags, and the one about single moms came up. And I think, some guys, depending on how old you are, like maybe a guy my age, although I'd prefer to date younger, might date a woman around his age. Maybe she's got adult kids, they've grown up, they're out of the house. Most of them are out of the house or whatever. They might entertain it. But a woman that doesn't have kids is still a better choice, to me anyway, even if I have a kid. as a long-term type of relationship. I don't have to put up with, oh, I'm not available that night, or, can you come to Billy's birthday party, or, at Billy's birthday dinner, we're going to go out and, my ex is going to be there and we're all going to sit down and talk together and pretend like we're a happy family, all that bullshit. It's like, I don't want to deal with any of that baggage. I don't want to deal with, taking her kids on vacation and paying for shit. I just don't. So to Claudia's question, to that point, my preference would be for a gal without any prior encumbrances, baggage, whatever you want to call it. It is what it is. And it's like, oh yeah, but Rich, you got kids, what can they start having a fucking meltdown and a spasm. And it's like, yeah, but it's very different between men and women. I'm squared away. I got my life in fucking order. My kid isn't a problem. I raise a child properly, well-behaved, polite, thoughtful. Whereas you never know what you're going to get. In the vast majority of cases, you don't get something that's good or going to enhance your life, if I can put it that way. If you're dealing with a chick with kids in tow, sometimes from multiple relationships, multiple different fathers, different schedules, different events, sitting around, like, fuck all of that noise. I hope that answers your question, Claudia. All right, what do we got here? Talked about being a boss girl. Don't do that. We talked about promiscuity and when you should hold out and when you shouldn't. You should hold out when you're younger. I didn't really talk about that. You should hold out when you're younger. You can only bargain that transaction once. Once it's been bargained and it goes, vehicle's no longer new. It's no longer showroom condition. Okay. And I know that you don't like it, and I know it bothers women, but it is what it is. Just like men can't have babies, just like women get preferential treatment in family court during divorce, just like women get a better deal when it comes to justice and criminal convictions, far lighter sentences, far lower fines. They get let off speeding more than men do. They pay lower car insurance than men do. Blah blah blah. Like there's a lot of discrepancies in our world, and I don't hear guys crying about it all the time. But the minute that you tell a woman that her purity has value, that a lack of promiscuity is valuable to men, they lose their fucking ever-loving mind. It's like, again, show me guys that have said, I wish my wife had banged 100 more guys before I got married to her. They don't exist. What else we got here? Since we're talking about intimacy, let's talk about mind-blowing sexual experiences. One of the things I've seen a lot of on social media is you see a lot of dudes on forums like Reddit or discussion forums, Facebook groups, and even in stuff like that. And they're going on about either being married or being in a long-term relationship and it's sexless, or more specifically, they've heard that their wife has done stuff that they want to do with other guys that they're not willing to do with the man that they're with. Let me be a little more specific. Ladies, if you're attracted to a man and you want his commitment and you're asking for his commitment, you shouldn't have done things with other guys in the bedroom, more specifically, that you're not willing to do with the guy that you're attracted to, that you're trying to get the commitment from. Men have likes and preferences when it comes to the bedroom, and notions, ideas, stuff that they want to explore, play with. Maybe they just have a preference for, that they like. As long as nobody's getting hurt and you truly love the guy, like you genuinely like the guy. I mean, you're asking for his commitment. I mean, you want him, right? Why wouldn't you give him the sexual experiences that he's looking for? Why would you deny him that? I remember there was a story on Reddit where the guy had found an old VHS tape of his wife doing ungodly things to multiple men simultaneously during her college years. And she had refused to do anything even remotely close to something that would be labeled as ungodly with her husband. And when he found this shit out, he was fucking furious. Absolutely furious. Because it's like, he shows up, buys her a house, renovates the kitchen the way that she wants it, has an in-law suite built for her mom, has all the kids with her that she wants, and then she doesn't give him what he wants. And one of the mistakes, and I want to be very, very clear on this because this is a natural thing. And it sort of susses itself out. Guys can actually solve this problem for themselves in the dating phase, during the selection phase, guys. So I'm talking to you right now. If she doesn't have genuine burning desire, in my book, okay, there it is. Okay, in my book, there's a chapter on genuine burning desire, measuring it, gauging it, identifying what it is, enjoying it. If you don't indulge or get involved with a woman that doesn't have GBD for you, you'll be fine with this. She'll throw herself at you. She'll be very generous with her body and the things that she'll be willing to do with you in the bedroom. But a lot of guys don't get genuine burning desire because most gals don't get the guys that they want. They want all the dudes on the top shelf, the top 5% of men, and all the girls are fighting for that same guy. So they usually don't get that guy and they end up settling for somebody. So there's a real problem with that. Women settle, guys let themselves settle with women that don't really like them. And then they end up in a situation where they're not getting the kind of intimate relationship that they're expecting, which sucks. It's not worth it. No guy wants that. They don't want to find out that their wife was doing things with other guys in her college years that she's unwilling to do with the man that marries her, the man that took her on a honeymoon and spent 15 or 20 grand on that, the man that bought her the house that she wants, the man that gave her the children, the man that built the in-law suite for her mom or whatever it happens to be. They never want to find themselves in that position. So I think women need to understand that giving the guy what he wants in a bedroom is really important to the guys. I know it's important to women too. And I mean, some guys don't get that. That's not this podcast today. I'm trying to talk to the women more specifically, but there's that. What else we got? Holy smokes, time has flown here. We got about 10 minutes left. Do we have any gals calling in? No, we got a lot of gals in the chat that are talking, but I know you're always afraid to call in. All right. And then the last thing that I got here, which is also controversial, is that if all you women want the guy that's on the top shelf, you want the competent guy, the successful guy, the resourceful guy, the 6'6s, that's another one that comes up a lot. 6 foot tall, 6-figure income, 600 horsepower car, 6 inches in the pants, six pack abs, 6 months out of a relationship. You want all these, you have this long list of the painted picture of the guy that you want, which are all on the top shelf. These are the top 5% of men. And he's resourceful, and he's competent, and he's successful and influential, and men want to be him and women want to be with him. Do you think for a second that demanding exclusivity on a sexual basis is going to lock that guy down? It probably won't. He might lie to you. He might nod his head and say, okay, fine, I'll do it. I'm not going to cheat on you or whatever. It's just you and I sort of thing. But men and women are different. See, women think more emotionally, of course, I feel like. So women go, I just feel like that, because I've asked for your commitment that, we should be sexually exclusive and all that sort of stuff. And, what I've learned in the last couple of years anyway, is that commitment and sexual exclusivity can be separated in a long-term relationship. I've seen lots of guys, I've talked to lots of men that are successful. They're, I talk about the paths to wealth, C-suite jobs. So CEOs, CFOs, licensed professionals, doctors, lawyers, influential people. They're actors, musicians, athletes, social media influencers, whatever it happens to be. They sell high-end items. They're getting paid a fat stack of cash for selling a $10 million home, jets, yachts, expensive cars, stuff like that. They're in STEM. Unfortunately, a lot of the STEM guys are some of the worst offenders out there for being plugged in beta males. But the FAANG companies, Facebook, Amazon, they're tech leads. They make $1 million a year, total compensation. Entrepreneurs. A lot of these guys have options and they've worked hard to be successful. And you're asking them to deny one of the greatest benefits of being successful, being on the top shelf, which is sexual access to other women, to have optionality. And a lot of these guys can separate commitment from sexual exclusivity. Again, women think emotionally from, with their head. I feel like that it should just be like this, because women get jealous for different reasons than men do. Women get jealous. See, when a guy cheats, the first thing she's going to ask is, well, did you love her? When a woman cheats, the first thing a guy asks is, did you fuck him? They're not as concerned with the act of sex as men are. Men are far, far more concerned with it. Women, on the other hand, they lose when a guy takes his resources, attention, and protection. Again, let's go widescreen here. And if that's the entire timeline throughout history that we've existed as upright, modern hunter-gatherer, like humans, as we are today, which is not that long. It's like, from an evolutionary perspective, I could pluck a beard hair and hold it at the end, and that's the representation of the last 10,000 years where we had agriculture. But for the vast majority of time, we operate as nomadic hunter-gatherers, and guys would sleep with other women, and women would just be okay with it, because it didn't matter if provisioning, protection, food, and resources were still there. They're worried that they're going to lose that because, 50,000 years ago, if he were to take away food, protection, resources, all that sort of stuff, that would spell certain death for most women and their children. So they're always going to be concerned about that. Like, despite modern times, skyscrapers, roads, internet, cell phones, social media, dating apps, all that sort of stuff, that's very, very modern convenience today that hasn't existed for the vast majority of time that we've operated as modern, anatomically correct humans, as we are today. So men are actually able to separate sexual exclusivity from commitment. You can do 100% commitment with a woman and give her 99% sexual exclusivity, as long as you don't embarrass her, rub it in her face. Some lady shows up on her front door, knocking on it, saying, "Hey, I've got his kid, surprise." She doesn't want to deal with any of that shit, because that's where the loss of resources. She doesn't want to think that you're in love with another chick. And I get that you maybe having intimate interactions with women, they think that that's love. It's not. I've seen lots of guys when they're traveling, whatever instance it happens to be, they do it. They go home. They still love their family. They still do the Christmases, the Thanksgiving, the birthdays, the summer vacation, all that shit. And she just doesn't care. She just looks the other way because she's got what she wants. And I think a lot of women today, they've got very strict boundaries on sexual exclusivity. And I've spent a lot more time writing about this in my second book in a couple of different areas, and it'll all make sense to you when you get a copy of that later on this year. But one of the things women can do, which will improve their chances of locking down a high value man, is not being so strict with a guy on sexual monogamy. You can get commitment from him without getting 100% of that. And you may not like it. Like I said earlier, there's a lot of things that women don't like, but they will put up with them, and they can actually be good for the relationship and a attraction for him. See, because we know that women vet men by looking at what other women are doing with that guy. So if there's a new woman that enters a room, she's attractive and she's looking for a high value guy, she's hunting for it, sort of thing. And he shows up, and then she sees him surrounded by other attractive women. What's a good example of this? Well, just use somebody like Dan Bilzerian. He's not particularly tall. I think he's 5'8" or 5'9" or something like that. So he's not like, a lot of women have a stricture, you got to be 6 foot tall. So he's not particularly tall. Some people say his haircut's kind of goofy or whatever, but he manages, and he's always managed to, and he will continue to do so, because he can easily surround himself with a lot of beautiful women, and women use other beautiful women to vet men. Oh, I don't have to fucking do any work. I see a whole bunch of attractive women around that guy. That's a good guy, right? And then they lock him down and they remove the women from the equation. And what ends up happening is their attraction and the desire for him starts to go down. One of the problems that I've seen with a lot of dudes over time, I talk about this in a lot more detail in the book, but a lot of guys express frustration because over time they end up giving them more. When a guy loves a woman, he'll give her. He'll be very generous with his resources, right? That's how women can gauge how much a guy likes you. So ladies, if you want to know how much a guy likes you, you can gauge it by how much he gives you, okay? How much he's willing to give you. And you shouldn't be asking for it. It should just be something that he's wanting to do because he loves you and he cares for you, sort of stuff like that. He'll be very generous with his time. He'll be generous with, vacations and taking you places. And instead of flying in the back coach, he'll buy you the cocoon in the front that you can stretch out and relax and sit with all the other, people in the front rather than the plebs in the back or the cattle. And, he'll show you or he'll introduce you to experiences and things that you just wouldn't be able to pay for yourself. That's what men do to show that they love a woman and that they're committed to them. Women, on the other hand, for guys, for guys watching right now, you can gauge a woman's level of attraction and interest in you, her genuine burning desire for you. If you can, I talk about some of those details in my book. But you can gauge it by how generous she is with herself and her time, and the cost to you as well. The cost won't be high. You won't have to wait 8 dates for intimacy. You won't have to take her to a very specific restaurant on her list of places to go. She won't insist that, every other weekend you take her to some fucking Airbnb, yurt, treehouse, fucking mountain cabin thing so that she can take her Instagram photographs and all like that. She won't make, just being around you guys will be enough for her. Just being in your presence. She'll go and do grocery shopping, bring over food, cook it, clean up afterwards, feed you, and sit quietly and pleasantly beside you with her head on your shoulder, just loving you because your presence is enough for her. So for the guys watching, that's an important thing to comprehend. But ladies, reducing your strictures on sexual exclusivity is wise. It's smart. And I see too many women untie the knot. One of the things that, so here's a hill that I'll die on, before I wrap this up, to sort of give you a little bit more of an idea. It grinds my gears over and over again when I see a good man that's good at being a man, that's high value, he's handsome, successful, resourceful, he nails it, he does everything right, but he fucked up and he banged the secretary, or he screwed up and he banged some gal while he was on a, physician's conference or a lawyer's conference, out of town or something like that. And she finds out about it. And then she wants to go and divorce that guy because she thinks that she can do better. And it's like, if the dude's in love with you, you have a family, he loves all of that, he shows up for the vacations, he's showing up for, again, the holidays, the Christmas, the summer vacation, all that sort of stuff. Really, you're going to divorce one of the guys in the top shelf, the top 5% of men. You're going to divorce him because you think you can do better. You think you can find there's 3 things that all women want. It's a handsome man, a loyal man, and a rich man. Those would be the main things if you want to just boil it down to those things. Pick a couple of those because you're not going to get all 3, right? Because if he's handsome and rich, he's probably not going to be loyal, right? If he's handsome and loyal, he's probably not going to be rich. If he's rich and loyal, he's not going to be handsome, right? So pick your fucking poison and stop being so difficult with men, because men and women are not the same. We think and act differently. We think the reasons for jealousy are different. The reasons for cheating, it's different. Men cheat, women betray. Women fall in love with the guy when they step out. They're ready to leave. They want a monkey branch and go to the next relationship when they step out on a guy. It's very rare that you'll see a woman that's like, oh, I just had some casual sex, but I still love my husband and my family, and nothing's going to change and blah, blah, blah. It doesn't work that way. But hey, you go, girl. You listen to Lizzo and all the other crap that you hear on the radio, singing some songs, some Taylor Swift's crap. I mean, Taylor Swift's a funny example. I shared it on social media once. If you Google it, how many boyfriends has Taylor Swift had? It's something like, I don't know, 19 or 20. And that doesn't account for all the one-night stands, the short-term relationships, the friends with benefits that she's had. And every single one of her songs is complaining about a guy or some guy that, did her wrong or cheated on her or some shit like that. And it's like, good luck locking down everything you want from one man. They're all on the top shelf. They're all the same sort of guy. You all want to chase them down. We talk about hypergamy. Hypergamy is women's sexual strategy. They want the best that they can get. And then we also talk about monogamy. And monogamy doesn't serve women. It actually serves men. Another thing that I've picked up in the last couple of years. Functionally, it ensures that every woman or sorry, we're going to say it this way. Every guy has a man or has a woman. And those links, like those connections exist, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1 sort of thing. But that's not satisfying a woman's hypergamous nature. A woman's hypergamous nature is what again? I want the best that I can get. Okay, well, the best that you can get probably isn't going to be an environment of monogamy where it's one man, one woman, one man, one woman, one man, one woman. What it naturally is, and throughout history, what it's been, and you can research this, I've got the data in my book as well coming up, is that throughout history, successful men have shared women. Women have shared a man, if I can put it that way. But there's no record in history of women sharing men simultaneously and still being committed. They're more defined as extramarital affairs, right? People will say, well, Cleopatra, Elizabeth Taylor, blah, blah, blah. They're all extramarital affairs, right? Where they had their guy on the side, even though they were married, right? Whereas guys, you have examples of Solomon, Ishmael the Bloodthirsty, the Sultan of Morocco, king of whatever. Like there's all these examples throughout history of men that were married, they had wives, but they also had concubines, they had multiple wives, they had a harem, they had eunuchs that would guard their harem sort of thing. That just doesn't. So the end state of hypergamy is essentially polygyny. So women have to reduce a lot of their strictures, a lot of their boundaries when it comes to sexual exclusivity if they want to lock down these guys. And that's just the way it is. Don't get mad at me. I just point to the facts and I tell you the truth. I've dealt with fucking thousands of guys. I've talked to lots of these guys. I've helped them navigate every aspect of their life. More of this will be summarized in my book. So I hope you guys are around for that. You can get on my email list. Let me put my email list sticker at the bottom here, right here. So if you get on my email list, you can get the free chapter from my book. If you're newer to the channel, entrepreneursandcars.com/red-flags. You can see the 21 red flags there absolutely for free. And on that email list, that's where you'll get notification of my next book coming out. And you can grab a copy there to get some more information. That's it. Ladies, I know you don't like some of this. I don't care. I am not going to lie to you. I am not going to deceive you. I'm going to tell you like it is. And that's just the way it is. You want to get better results out of life? Watch this video. Watch it again. Send it to your girlfriends. Send it to your sisters. Send it to your gal friends if you have them. It doesn't matter. Being a lot more intentional, purposeful, and realizing very early, as early on as you possibly can, that you can't squander away your youth and beauty, because that's what top shelf men want. They want youth and beauty. That's the other thing too. I see a lot of women like, I'm not going to date older than me. I'm not going to date 5 years older than me. Look, if you're sitting in the right headspace and you're going through all this and you're nodding your head right now and you're like 24 years old or something like that, and you're like, yep, all makes sense. Got it. The guy that you're looking to attract and he's probably not 24 years old. I hate to tell you, he's probably older. He could be even a lot older. So that's another area where women should probably relax a lot of their boundaries and strictures when it comes to guys is realize that men peak later on in life. And it's going to take them a good 10, 15, 20 years probably. There's no overnight successes with men. Every guy that you look at right now that's a success, his overnight success came at years, probably a decade or two of very hard work, sleepless nights, blood, sweat, and tears, lawsuits, partnerships that didn't work out, businesses they had to wind down, change of practice or professional acumen, whatever the fuck it is. A lot of these guys have been through a lot to achieve what they've gotten to. So it's probably not likely that you're going to find exactly what you're looking for with the long laundry list of shit that you're after at your age bracket. You're probably going to have to go older than you. All right. That's all I got. I hope you guys got some value out of this shirt. Again, with somebody that needs to see it. Moff will be off on Monday next week, so there'll be no chopping it up. But I'll be on for Ladies Night on next Tuesday night, filling in for him. Hopefully we can have a decent panel for you. Can't promise it. I don't even know who they are until I show up for a show when I fill in, like even before, right? It is what it is. We'll see you guys later. Peace. All right, guys. If you enjoyed that podcast, make sure you visit my website at richcooper.ca to learn more about my courses, my book, The Unplugged Alpha, community, or booking me for private coaching. Also, if you are a Canadian with $15,000 or more of credit card debt and what you are doing right now isn't paying off the balances, then visit totaldebtfreedom.ca and hit get a free quote to see if you qualify to settle your credit card debt for less than you owe today over the next 48 months. Make sure you check out the top pinned comment on YouTube for all the links mentioned during the show. Peace.